The city of Haneul, known for its gleaming skyscrapers and bustling streets, hides many secrets just beneath its polished surface. Among the constant hum of life, there exists a place that doesn't appear on any maps, the Garden of Shadows. Though its legend is whispered in hushed tones, few ever claim to have seen it, an ancient sanctuary said to grant immense power to those brave enough to enter. Jun-ho was an ordinary high school senior, or so he thought. With disheveled brown hair and an affinity for sketching dragon-like creatures in his notebooks, Jun-ho spent most of his days blending into the background. Academics weren't his specialty, nor were sports. If anything, Jun-ho's only distinguishing feature was his ability to slip through social situations unnoticed. A skill honed from years of living in his brother's shadow. His older brother, Seo Jun-ho, was everything he wasn't: charismatic, ambitious, and overwhelmingly popular. Jun-ho had achieved fame as the leader of a national esports team. He had fans lining up for autographs, press hounding him at every turn, and teachers praising his achievements as though they were their own. Jun-ho, he was invisible, always the second son, never the spotlight. But Jun-ho's story was about to change. It was late autumn, and the evening air carried a faint chill as he wandered the alleys of Haneul on his way home from night classes. He had stayed late to finish a school project, though his lack of enthusiasm meant the results were mediocre at best. As usual, no one had waited for him. Jun was probably out with his fans, while his parents were busy discussing sponsorship deals. Lost in thought and twirling his pen between his fingers, Jun-ho's senses sharpened when he realized he'd taken a wrong turn. The narrow alley was unfamiliar, with towering walls of ivy and cobblestones slick from the rain. A dim lantern flickered at the far end, casting eerie shadows as the street wound further into darkness. A strange sensation prickled up his spine. He wasn't alone. The faint sound of wind whispered through the ivy, almost like voices beckoning him forward. His instincts screamed to turn back, yet his body moved involuntarily, feet crunching softly against wet stone. When Jun-ho reached the end of the alley, he stopped cold. The sight before him was surreal. A weathered iron gate intertwined with thorny vines, its frame embedded into a crumbling brick wall. Inscribed across the top of the gate were 4 characters in an ancient script he didn't recognize, glowing faintly like dying embers. And then it spoke, not with words but with whispers, an echo inside his mind that he couldn't ignore. Why do you hesitate? The shadow is part of you, child of duality. Accept your place. No one was there. His heart hammered against his ribcage, yet his feet remained planted in place. Is this some kind of prank? He muttered nervously, though the gate's aura made him doubt his own words. The air surrounding it felt charged, like static before a lightning strike. He raised a trembling hand to touch the cold, rusted iron. Before his fingers brushed the surface, the vine thorns slithered apart like serpents, revealing a path that vanished into darkness. Jun-ho stepped through. The Garden of Shadows wasn't made of flowers and trees. Its name was deceptive. It was less of a garden and more of a labyrinth, a maze of shifting corridors layered with mirrors taller than skyscrapers, each reflecting parts of himself that weren't visible before. As he walked through, Jun-ho saw fragments of his life frozen in the mirrors. Scenes of his brother laughing on stage, Jun-ho sitting alone at lunch, fights with his parents, all raw and vividly detailed. Every memory flickered like an old film reel, showing him moments of joy intertwined with pain, triumph overshadowed by disappointment. But the garden wasn't interested in nostalgia. Its purpose was far greater. In its center, Jun-ho found a pedestal carved from obsidian. On it rested a single object, a black gemstone swirling with silver streaks, pulsing as though alive. Child of duality, the whispers returned. Your path diverges here. Choose. Embrace the shadow and ascend, or walk away and remain unknown. Begin anew or fade into obscurity. Jun-ho froze. He wasn't sure he wanted power. He wasn't even sure he deserved it. What had he accomplished in his 17 years? Nothing significant. But as the whispers pressed harder against his mind, he remembered his brother's smirking face. That infuriating confidence that made everyone gravitate to Jun like moths to a flame. Would this change things? Would Jun-ho finally be someone worth noticing? I don't understand, Jun-ho whispered, his voice shaky. Why me? I'm not special. Special wasn't the point. The Garden of Shadows sought balance. A player, a pawn, and a breaker of cycles. Ordinary people rarely stumbled upon its gate. The fact that Jun-ho was standing here meant that he'd been chosen, even if he didn't yet know why. He hesitated for a long time, staring at the gemstone that seemed to call his name. His heart battled with his mind, one clinging to the comfort of anonymity, the other yearning for change. And then finally he made his choice. He reached out, wrapping his fingers around the gemstone. The world shattered. Jun-ho barely remembered what happened next. Darkness enveloped him, pressing against his chest with suffocating force. Memories collided with other visions, things he'd never experienced but somehow recognized. Faces, voices, battles fought in forgotten years. When he opened his eyes again, he was lying in his bedroom, drenched in sweat, his desk scattered with papers. The gemstone was gone, but its presence hadn't disappeared entirely. He could feel it inside him, pulsing faintly like the beat of a second heart. At first, he thought it was over. The garden was a fever dream, something his mind conjured during a stressful night. But as days passed, strange things began happening. His reflexes sharpened. He could predict movements before they happened in gym class. Shadows seemed to merge with his own, lingering longer than they should. And his brother Min-jun, who had always been full of himself, started treating him differently. Less condescendingly, as though he suddenly saw something in Jun-ho's eyes that unsettled him. "What the hell's gotten into you?" Min-jun asked one evening after dinner, his voice tense. "You've been acting weird, and frankly, it's starting to freak me out." Jun-ho shrugged innocently, though deep down, turmoil brewed. Min-jun had always been the alpha of their relationship, always towering over him. But now, could the balance finally be shifting? What Jun-ho didn't yet know was that the core of the garden was waking inside him. Every step into this new dawn would push him closer to the shadow and further from the ordinary life he had once known. His story had just begun, and Haneul would never be the same.